Hello, I'm Benjamin Zander, and I'm sitting in my beautiful garden. Fall is about to happen, but this last day of glory here, the beauty of the sun and the sky and the flowers all around, and I'm thinking about what a beautiful world we live in before it all goes down into winter. And that's a little bit the way I'm feeling about our concert series. You know, I'm 85, so I've been around a long time. I came to Boston 60 years ago on the Queen Elizabeth and settled here in Boston. And I've had a glorious journey here with music, with colleagues, with students, with friends, to create as much beauty as is possible through the art of music. And for this season, I'm raiding the cabinet of classical music's glory. I'm looking in that cabinet and finding out the pieces that I love the most, that I think speak most truly about humanity, and who say something lasting and important for human beings. That's what we do. Boston Philharmonic Youth Orchestra, two great orchestras at the top of their game. 7 concerts in Symphony Hall. Now, there are other great halls in Jordan Hall and Zander Theatre where we used to play, but there's nothing like Symphony Hall in Boston. Richard Dyer, who just died a couple of days ago, said his whole love of music started with Symphony Hall, with the Boston Symphony, and he ended up as the great chief music critic for 35 years, speaking about the glories of music and the power of music to transform our lives. So that's our home. It's not our home, it belongs to the Boston Symphony, one of the greatest orchestras the world has ever known. But Boston has another great orchestra, the Boston Philharmonic, and actually 2 great orchestras, the Boston Philharmonic Youth Orchestra. We just returned with the youth orchestra from a tour to Europe. We went to Basel and to Prague and to Hamburg and to Vienna and to Berlin. We played in the greatest halls in Europe to audiences that were packed to the rafters. There was no room. 2,440 people in the Berlin Philharmonic Hall heard the youth orchestra play Mahler's Fifth Symphony. Imagine that. And they roared their approval for 13 minutes after the concert. They couldn't get enough. That is who we have here. The Boston Philharmonic, now in its 46th season, and the youth orchestra, triumphant in Europe and returning home to Boston to play in Symphony Hall. Now, every person should at some time in their life experience music in Symphony Hall, because it's unlike anything else. Yes, Carnegie Hall is quite good too, but Symphony Hall, for the acoustics, for the ambience, for the history, for the clarity and the beauty of the sound, there's nothing like it anywhere. Even the halls in Europe where we played, Berlin and Vienna, the Musikverein, fantastic hall, not Symphony Hall. Right? We played in the great Elbphilharmonie in Hamburg, one of the greatest halls in Europe. It's great. It's not like Symphony Hall. So I invite you to come home to Boston to listen to music, the greatest music, played at the highest level of passion and integrity by 2 great orchestras in Symphony Hall, Boston. That's our season. You can find out more about it by going on the website, finding out the dates. But I want to tell you, this is a journey, an event that I am extremely excited about. I can't remember ever having been more or even perhaps as excited as I am about this season, because I've taken all the great, for instance, the Rite of Spring of Stravinsky and the Bartok Concerto for, I have the scores right here. The Bartok Concerto for Orchestra, the Rite of Spring of Stravinsky are my 2 favorite works written in the 20th century. The 2 greatest orchestral works. The Bartok Concerto for Orchestra is in the first concert of the Boston Philharmonic. The Rite of Spring is in the first concert of the Youth Orchestra on November the 3rd in Symphony Hall. You won't believe how these two pieces sound, how great they are, how incredibly, how great they sound, how incredibly beautiful they are, exciting, and the performances will make the hair on the back of your head stand up. There's nothing greater. So in the first concert with the Boston Philharmonic, along with the Bartok Concerto, which is the ultimate test of an orchestra, a concerto for orchestra. But on the same program is the Brahms Concerto for Violin, which is my favorite concerto of all concertos for any instrument, the Brahms Violin Concerto. And who's the soloist? Guy Bronstein. Guy Bronstein for 13 years, was the leader, the concertmaster of the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra, one of the greatest orchestras the world has ever known, and he was the concertmaster. And last year he came, he played the Elgar Concerto, and everybody who heard it was talking about it as one of the greatest performances of anything they'd ever heard. And you know, on that night at the concert, I invited him to come back and play the Brahms Concerto this year, because I couldn't imagine anybody playing it more beautifully. So that's happening in the first concert. Originally, the program was just going to be the Brahms Violin Concerto and the Bartok Concerto for Orchestra. That's enough. We don't need more than that. But I'd added one more glory out of the cabinet of classical music glories, Egmont Overture of Beethoven. Because Beethoven, you know, there's only one name in Symphony Hall on the arch above the stage, Beethoven. That's the only name, not Bach, not Brahms, not nobody, just Beethoven. And Beethoven is essential. He is the essential voice of classical music. And his overture is, the Egmont Overture, an absolute masterpiece. And I was inspired, I have to tell you, for political reasons, because when Kamala Harris became the candidate for the presidency against Donald Trump, suddenly I saw an opportunity to say in music what I trust will be the result politically, which is the most perfect example of snatching victory out of the jaws of defeat. At the end of the Egmont Overture, when we've had this dark expression of terror and death in the Flemish story of Egmont, at the last moment, in C major, suddenly the most glorious march of triumph and victory, unexpected, unprepared, and so satisfying. And I think just before we have that election, what a wonderful way to get an audience of people in Symphony Hall to not to read about it or think about it, but to experience in their body, in their visceral life, the experience of snatching victory out of the jaws of defeat, expressed in the most powerful language devised by human beings, music. So that's the program. You can't do better than that. Why would you want to miss that program? Why would you want to be doing something else than being with Guy Bronstein playing the Brahms, with Egmont Overture, and with the Bartok Concerto, which was written for the Boston Symphony, and he was sitting in the first balcony overlooking it when they played it. And we're going to do it now for the last time. I'm not going to do that piece again. This is it. I'm rounding things off in my 85th year. That's the time when you start to think, what are the pieces that I really, really, really want to play one more time? And so then we go to the second program, and you know, it's equally thrilling because I come from England, and my roots are in England. My childhood was spent in England, and the greatest influence on my life as a very young person was Benjamin Britten, and I wanted something of Benjamin Britten in there. And there's a beautiful piece, a piece which I'm sure nobody listening to this broadcast will know. It's by Purcell, but it's arranged by Benjamin Britten. We're going to play that. It's for strings. It's a chaconne. And it's, of course, in the Britten style, modern style, not an imitation of the old style of Purcell, which we all know now. But this is genuine romantic. It's so beautiful. It's going to sound incredible. And then comes the Elgar violin, and then comes the Elgar cello concerto with Alexander Bailey, Sandy Bailey as we call him. He's been to us many, many times. He's played actually 8 different concertos with the Boston Philharmonic over the years. And it's been a long time, but now I'm bringing him back to play the Elgar that he embodies, that he lives, that he expresses as perfectly as anybody, perhaps since his beloved friend and teacher, Jacqueline Dupre. So it'll be going back into the world of Elgar in a way that actually no foreigner can do. Only somebody from the British Isles can realize that incredible beauty. And it's just about the most popular concerto there is. Right? The Elgar cello concerto is so beloved, so adored. And you think that was enough? How about the planets of Holst? I mean, is there any piece more popular, more glorious, more stunning in its impact in Symphony Hall? Because you hear it on a recording, it sounds great, but when you get into that hall and you hear the sounds that Holst developed, which John Williams incidentally took lock, stock and barrel and turned into Star Wars and all the other great movie scores, he was so influenced. But the sound of that music in Symphony Hall, imagine. And so that's the program. And Holst, incidentally, I don't have any direct connection with Holst, but his daughter, Imogen Holst, one of the great musicians England ever produced, was my teacher. She was my theory teacher. So with Britten and Holst and Imogen Holst and Elgar and Sandy Bailey and so on, I'm embracing my past as a proud Englishman who has decided to spend his life here in America. Third concert, Mahler. Of course it has to be Mahler. Mahler's Fourth Symphony. My favorite, dare I say that, not the greatest, I think that's the ninth, but my favorite, perhaps most people's favorite, the fourth. The most beautiful, the most tender, the most open, and the most understandable. And a piece that I've done many times, recorded and performed all over the world. It's a piece that I just adore. And the soloist in the last movement, who has to imitate a child, is a wonderful singer, again from England, and her name is Claire Booth, not well known here, but I heard her sing and I said, that's the singer for the Mahler Fourth, but she can also sing the Strauss Four Last Songs with that rich, full autumnal sound that's needed from a soprano. She can do both. And so I got her to come from England, especially for that evening, for that one concert. It's actually an afternoon, and to sing the Strauss Four Last Songs, the last works that Strauss wrote with his farewell voice. So beautiful, so tender, so touching, so moving. And then the Mahler Fourth, the child wakes up in heaven. I mean, it's a fantastic combination. So I'm thrilled about that. And Claire Booth is one of the only sopranos who could do those two works on one program. And the Boston Philharmonic will be in spectacular form because they adore Mahler, and they adore Mahler 4. And you know what? They're one of the best orchestras in the world for that music. And the final concert is Mahler's Second. I mean, to end the year on Good Friday with Mahler's Second, the Resurrection Symphony. I mean, what a triumphant way, with the chorus pro musica and two of the greatest soloists in the world. Dame Sarah Connolly, who I love above all. I mean, her rendition of Urlicht, the song in the fourth movement of the Mahler Second, on my recording with the Philharmonic Orchestra, which, please find it. It's on my website. You can hear it. It's 4 minutes of the most heavenly music and the heavenly singing you will ever hear. And she's coming all the way from England to sing the Mahler Second with us. Oh, on Good Friday. I mean, it's too much. And then the soprano on that recording with the Philharmonia, Mia Persson, beautiful soprano singer who sings perfectly the soprano role. and the Chorus Pro Musica, which has been the chorus with which I've worked since I began 53 years ago. So it's a great coming together. And that's the season of the Boston Philharmonic in Symphony Hall, Boston, the greatest concert hall in the country and a place where some of the greatest music has been made since music began. So it's a thrilling opportunity. Now, you think that's all. The youth orchestra, did I mention the Rite of Spring? First concert, the Rite of Spring, and the third most popular classical music piece in the repertoire, Dvorak's New World Symphony. What an embarrassment of riches. The Dvorak New World Symphony, played by a youth orchestra in Symphony Hall, followed by the Rite of Spring. And before it, a glorious overture, Verdi, an expression of the love of country, patriotism expressed for Italy, but which we feel so much these days for our own country. And the young people pour their hearts and souls into this music. It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait for that concert. We're already in deep rehearsal, and every time the rehearsal begins, I see 120 young musicians with their eyes shining brightly, ready to go to get this music learned and understood and played. I mean, it's thrilling. It's thrilling. It's the same orchestra that was in Europe now playing in the great concert halls. Now we're playing it on November 3rd in Symphony Hall. The second concert, we have to do Mahler with the youth orchestra, because now I'm getting to the end of my journey. I won't be here for very long, and I want to pass on what I've learned and what I've understood about Mahler to the next generation. The youngest is 12, the oldest is 21, 22, and they are hungry to understand Gustav Mahler. So the darkest of the symphonies, the Sixth Symphony of Gustav Mahler, not a piece for children, a piece for serious people who treat life with deep seriousness. And we haven't started, of course, work on that, but we have a recording of it with the youth orchestra from many years ago, a commercial recording which has been received with tremendous acclaim. And we're going to do it again with them. And then the final concert, Rachmaninoff's Second Symphony, which is an outpouring of melody and beauty and glory. And then the Walton Cello Concerto with a young man who is not known yet in the world the way that Yo-Yo Ma is. Everybody knows Yo-Yo Ma, but he was one day also playing a concerto with the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra when he was young, and now Leland Coe is the name of this young man. He's already won a big competition, gold medal in the Montreal competition, but he used to sit as first cellist in the youth orchestra, in the Boston Philharmonic Youth Orchestra when he was 14. Now he's setting out on a great career. He's going to play the Walton Concerto, and before that, the ultimate gem of classical music, L'après-midi d'un faune, the afternoon of a faune by Debussy, which is in a sense, the ultimate test of an orchestra's refinement and delicacy and precision. And it's a risk to do that with the youth orchestra with 40 violins and 16 cellos and a huge, huge orchestra. But they're going to do it. It's going to be fantastic. So 7 concerts, Symphony Hall, 2 great orchestras, fantastic soloists, and some of the greatest music that has ever been put on paper. Be there. We want to have a wonderful season, a season that you will remember for years to come.